her, what she does today, and then, as I just said, perspectives that she embraces and how she does life and all that kind of stuff. So I encourage you, if you are here with us live, we would love to hear from you. So feel free to go ahead and comment down below if you have questions. And if you are enjoying this show, yes, please do go ahead and share and comment and like the show as we go. And hello to you on the replay as well. So if you're on the replay, please also do comment below so we can know that you were here with us as well. So let me share a little bit about Sharon. I'm going to read you her bio, and then we're going to hear directly from Sharon in her words, more about her. So Sharon has worked in business enterprises, small and large, for over 30 years, involved in hundreds of business change projects. She specializes in coaching leaders and helping businesses predictably achieve innovative breakthrough results. She uses a series of insights in her new book, You're Not a Nail: The 7 Business Practices That Kill Innovation, to set the stage for slingshot results generated from consciously directed energy exchanges that unleash innovative thinking. Sharon is a change catalyst and entrepreneur, understanding and leading with the power of the feminine in harmony with the power of the masculine. So with that said, hello and welcome, Sharon.
Hey, Kim. I love it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm excited to have you here, just because, not only because what you do, but I love your energy, Sharon. You're fun.
Well, we are fun together, and we feed off of each other, and I love that too.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right. So let's go a little bit deeper. I know I just shared your bio, but will you go ahead and share with us in your words, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I guess I'm an individual on the planet who, like everybody else, is looking at her life, my life, and looking at, why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my mission and vision in life? And following my passion. So it's taken me quite a few years to uncover the layers that we have when we are in that corporate business world, and when we're with our families and friends and so on. There's so many layers that we have, some that we hide behind, some that just come out naturally. You'll hear my giggle. That's the natural thing that I can't control. It just comes out. It's there, and it's all me. And that's part of what makes me fun. So yes, there's some fun there, some creative energy, and I think in a way I've always been a bit of a rebel. At the same time, I've been the good girl, and I've been trying to cover my rebel tendencies for years by being the good girl and following the rules and abiding by the structures. And for some reason, because that's not who I am, I would assume, I've been kicked out over and over again. So I've had 8 or 9 layoffs in my 30-some years. And so some people have had 1 layoff. It's devastating. It's crippling. It's not validating who you are or appreciating it. And you take it to heart, at least the first few times. And then after that, it's like, okay, here's another one. What am I going to do next? Because what I learned through the exercise is that, okay, I've had the layoff, but that now gives me the opportunity, the excitement and the opportunity to explore something that I couldn't do before, staying within that current construct or framework, right? And right. So my rebel spirit comes out every time. Once I get over the disappointment and the sadness and the anger, the denial, all of the stages of grief that you have to go through when you lose something. Once I get through that, I'm like, okay, what next? What can I tackle? And then, the job interviews, and then figuring out what you want to do. And at some point around about the 7th or 8th layoff, I decided that, maybe this whole corporate business world is not necessarily for me. Maybe what I've really been wanting to do, branch out, create my own company, work for myself, do my own thing. Maybe that's what I need to do. Maybe that's who I am and who I need to be, and maybe that will work better for me. Well, it has and it hasn't.
Okay.
So, you know, creating the material and creating the book and writing and doing my online seminar series and doing speaking about it has been phenomenal. And coaching people using the tools and the techniques has worked every single time that
Nice.
I've used it. And not just in my corporate career where I used it there, but also after, where I'm using it with people in very different disciplines and very different energies, with you know, the millennial generation,
Okay.
you know, and they're just lapping it up because it really works, right? And so practicing it and playing it with it, and also acknowledging it and being aware of what's going on in my life, and where and when I tend to become, I'm a victim, one of my characters in the book, or when I tend to do saboteur and I'm sabotaging my happiness and my success by trying to reinterpret my current reality in the old framework.
So, yeah, right. Well, so Sharon, something I heard you, what you mentioned earlier is you kept trying to control certain outcomes, and it sounded like you weren't fully allowing yourself to fully be who you are. And the universe kind of kept redirecting you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was taught from a very young age, you know, be quieter, be smaller. You know, shush was my nickname for years.
Oh
Sharon,
my goodness. Wow.
So there's a lot of like suppression of energy. There's a lot of, no, you know, you're too loud, you move too much. You know, when I dance ugly. I dance like it's all out there, right? And you know, when you're growing up in the 70s and 80s and so on, that wasn't as accepted as the norm. It was more, you know, just be, you know, like with everybody else, think, right? And that little spirit of energy kept coming out. and it would change up how I was accepted and how I was relate to people. And then I would try to do what I thought I was supposed to do, trying to be the good girl, or trying to be the better man than the men in my life. And in the corporate work world, when I became a leader, ended up being like the ice queen and you know, the avalanche who was just pushing everything on everybody and making them get it done, and looking at what the tasks were versus who the people were who were performing the tasks.
So I know you talk about embracing the feminine and doing it in a masculine way. We just said something of that, like I'm trying to recall your bio. Leading with the power of the feminine in harmony with the power of the masculine. Will you share with us, how did you come to a place of recognizing that was going to serve you or might balance out what you were experiencing before?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a critical turning point for me in my life, and personal life, and my career. From it, I ended up getting married, have a wonderful husband, and a beautiful life as a result. And in my career, really busting out that inner spirit and inner energy, but balancing it with the harmony of the masculine. So for, I guess, 25 or so of my 30-year career, I was operating most of the time, most of my career, I was operating in the masculine mode. and I was being the masculine side of the feminine, which is kind of interesting. And I was, because I'm not a man, I don't know all of the elements. I'm not, my DNA doesn't have the hunter instincts, and so it has some modification of that. And so kind of a pretense.
Now, did you always know that you were operating from a masculine place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I knew that it was making me more and more tired all of the time while I was doing that. I started recognizing that about 15 years in, that it was just, I would sleep my weekends away because I was exhausted at the end of the week, right? And I was exhausted at the end of the day, and it started getting more and more frequent. And I learned later on that that actually comes from the use of testosterone. So when you're in the masculine mode, you're using testosterone. And we have 16 times less testosterone in our bodies than men do. And so I would burn up my testosterone within the first, say, hour or two of every day, and then run on adrenaline for the rest of the day.
What does operating... Oh, sorry. What does... Oops. Okay. What does operate? Yeah, I'll just acknowledge too, by the way. So for those watching us live or on the replay, you may notice there's a slight delay in my video, and I apologize for that. That's something that sort of came out of the blue in the last week and a half, and I'm working on that. So Sharon and I are just rolling with it as best we can. But Sharon, when you talk about working from a masculine place, the one thing that comes to mind is that I think the masculine energy you tend to think of it as the doing, and putting forth action, whereas the feminine is more being open and receiving. Can you give us some examples of what does it look like when someone's operating from more of a masculine place?
Well, a couple of examples is the attempt to focus.
Okay.
And produce results is masculine. And as a diffuse, aware, feminine woman, trying to focus takes the energy it takes to blast the space shuttle off the planet. So this is why my energy was draining, right? So I was focused, producing project plans. Now, I don't know if you've been or seen a project plan, but they're really detailed, and they take a lot of focus energy, and they take a lot of checking all the details and making sure everything is straight, right? And so I would go to my team, and I would ask my team, okay, how much time is it going to take you to do this? What are the things you need to do before you can do the next step? What are the steps? What is the sequence? Can any of these be done in parallel? And it's just like getting into the detail, right? Mm-hmm. Which a woman can do as well, but from a different perspective, right? And what I would end up doing is losing the connect part. So the feminine, the desired end result is a connection. Lots of connections, making connections, being heart supportive of your team, recognizing them each as individuals and their talents and skills that each has, and connecting with them. And so in the masculine mode, I would never connect. I would never appreciate. I would never reward or celebrate, right? And it was just part of that. Not that men can't celebrate. I mean, I'm, talking general here because it's masculine versus feminine, not men versus women, And in the masculine, you can certainly celebrate as well. It's just a different form of celebration than it is in the feminine. But yeah, learning all of that was a long road.
And I can totally identify with that. Just those times when you get so task oriented and focused on getting a job done, cutting out the emotions and the human side of things, and then actually the project can start to break down when you aren't acknowledging those things. And like you said, appreciating people. Okay. So let's go back to your personal experience of this. You said 25 of your 30 years, you realized you were operating from a masculine space. And what was that shift like for you when you realized it was time to, I guess, start incorporating more of your feminine side?
Well, first of all, I had the sense that I was getting tired and I needed to do something about it. Secondly, my personal dating life was really not working at all, and I needed some advice and I needed some kind of breakthrough. And so I went with a friend of mine who was also operating in masculine mode, and her and I talked about it a lot. She introduced me to some material in the PAX community about understanding men. And in 3 days, the weight lifted from my shoulders. In
Wow.
3 days, at the end of that third day, I realized that I was fighting an uphill battle and I didn't have to. That I could actually just flow down the hill and be me instead of putting on the armor, putting on that suit of armor that I went to work in every day. That, the suit and the dress and the skirt and the, nylons and the high heels. I didn't have to do any of that. It wasn't required.
So in 3 days of having that conversation with your friend, that's when...
No, this was actually taking a course. So it was a course,
okay.
Which is now called the Queen's Code.
Got it.
And it was phenomenal. It just allowed me permission to be me.
Nice.
And I took that permission, and like the rebel I am, I took that permission and I went and I launched, I can bring feminine to the masculine business world. That was my new hypothesis, right? And I tested it, and I went in, and but then I had to realize I had to figure out how to be feminine. I've been masculine for so many years. It was just natural at that point for me to keep going in that masculine mode. So it took me another, I guess, almost 5 years to really regain my sense of me and my femininity. And then, as you asked at the very beginning of this whole stream, was how did I get to that point where I could understand the harmony? Well, first thing I had to understand is that I had to start with me first, and that I was operating in me, both masculine and feminine, and I was out of balance. And so when I brought that into balance, I was taking one of the courses, and I was delivering on stage a talk about the masculine and feminine leadership, forms of power, forms of energy, right? And I put both feet on the stage, equal distance apart, my hips aligned, my body, spine aligned, my head was aligned. For the first time in years, I wasn't listing over to one side. I was centered and I was in balance, and I had that harmony of the masculine energy and the feminine energy in my own body in harmony. And I started to work with that, and that's what unleashed the whole innovation explosion that had me start down the path to write the book, so that other people could get this and understand it in their bones, and get there faster than I did, because it was a really long process for me. It doesn't have to be.
How did that feel in your body to finally feel that balance?
It felt incredible. I can still feel it in my body. When I just started talking about this, my whole body just straightened up, and I feel that energy, and now I have flow, right? And the flow is just, it's going up and down, and it's exploding out of my head, because it's just that being in harmony allows me to launch, right? Gives me the platform to launch from, so I can still come back to myself.
Nice. So for those who are listening live or on the replay, ask if you have questions, if you can relate to what Sharon's talking about operating from a more masculine or maybe even from a more feminine place, and maybe you notice that you're trying to balance the two out, feel free to go ahead and ask your questions, and we will go ahead and take a look at those and do our best to answer them live while you are still here. So all right. So, so Sharon, what types of results did you start, or just shifts did you start to notice once you started operating from this more balanced place?
So one of the teams that I was creating at the time, and I was working on a very challenging project that had a lot of people with knives in their hands trying to stab people in the back. It was literally, it was dangerous. It was, we were just trying to implement a new version of Outlook that allowed for the deletion of emails. So think about your emails and your inbox, and imagine that somebody says, we're going to auto delete every 90 days what's in your inbox. Auto delete. Like, it's scary, right? It's really scary. And people were facing the threat of loss, right? That sense of loss. And there's just a ton of stuff. And at the leadership level, the project team was the enemy with the client team, and the client team was seeing the project team as the enemy. It was nasty, like really, really nasty, right? And I walked into that, and one of the very first things I did, and there were a few people who really noticed this, and they said, Sharon, you're not reacting. And I said, no, I'm being. Nice. This is the key. In feminine, you're being, not doing or reacting. And I gathered my intelligence, I gathered the information I needed, and because I didn't react, the tensions came down, and they started to align, right? And so I started with the leadership team, and I was doing the project team and the client team at the same time, kind of simultaneous connections, right? This is the brilliance of the power of the feminine, is to do multi-layers of connections simultaneously, right? And I started something with my project team called the appreciation game. And we started to have our meetings, and at the end of the meeting, we would pull out a name from a hat, and that person would be appreciated by everybody else in the room.
I love it.
It was very, very uncomfortable for a lot of people right up front, because the other thing about feminine, and you mentioned it, it's about receptivity, right? A lot of women working in the business world, like me and many, many others, we would reject any gifts. We would reject receiving, right?
Yep.
And so when I started to allow receiving to happen, it made such a difference. What the result was from that, so first of all, at that leadership level, we got everybody to tone down and understand that emails would only be deleted if you don't classify them. And that classifying them took 2 clicks. And so it was easy. And as soon as they saw that, the temperature came down. And we got the approval to move ahead, which we needed. At the same point in time, I was really pushing my technology team to do things in very different ways to help everybody in the organization, 9,000 employees in the organization, get past that sense of loss, right? And so we had coaches on a one-on-one basis work with them. And I had a technology team that had to schedule interviews on a one-on-one basis with 9,000 employees all over North America. And so very challenging. And in a culture of, IT, and you do it this way, you can't make that many connections. It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. And technology doesn't allow you to do. And we had all of that, come out. And about 3-4 weeks into the appreciation game, I had one of the technical team members come to me and say, Sharon, I've never had that happen to me. He had just been appreciated in the previous meeting. He said, I have never had that happen to me. And I am so grateful. And he said, I have an idea I would like to explore with you. Would you be interested in this new idea? And I said, absolutely. And he wasn't the only one. I had 5 other members of the team do the same thing and open up in innovative ways with new ideas. And we created something amazingly, it was just astonishing, a database and all of these scheduled meetings and notifications and so on. It all came together and the team got on board.
Wow. Well, Sharon, I want to go back to earlier when you said people were asking you why you weren't reacting to things that were happening. And you said that I'm being. And what I want to point out, or at least what I notice about that, is that being certainly requires a level of trust, that it's okay to be who we are. And when you started introducing to these people, let's take time to appreciate someone, and the level of discomfort they had around that, what was that like, getting them to trust that, look, there's value in us doing this? What was that process like, getting them to trust that?
Well, it was a bit of challenge because, first of all, like most human beings, I doubted myself. I second guessed what I was trying to do, and I second guessed the way that I was trying to do it. But I said to myself, I was like, no, this is it. We got to stick to it. And I got to be persistent. So I'm pretty pushy sometimes, and I can, force people into it. And
you're a change catalyst. So there you go.
Absolutely. That's part of being a change catalyst. Sometimes you got to force people into the discomfort. And actually, I facilitate conversations where I force people into the places of discomfort, because as a human being, we want to get ourselves out of discomfort. And so the energy created by being in discomfort generates innovation. It generates those breakthrough results, right? And so I had to force my project team.
And what's awesome though is when you have someone leading the way, it makes it easier. So you were able to lead that way for them to go, okay, I don't know, she's taking us somewhere, but let's trust where she's taking us.
And they did. They hung with me for a while. And it was really interesting too, because we had people in Calgary, people in Toronto, people in Edmonton. So it was conference call meetings, and we could still do the appreciation game in spite of distance. So there were a lot of questions I had in my own head about, is this the right way to do it? But I kept at it, and I was insistent on it because I was the project manager. I actually had the authority to push it through. And I knew that as soon as I pushed it through for a few more sessions, then everybody would get on board. And they totally did. They totally did. By the end of the project, we had people saying a lot about that appreciation game and the connections that occurred and the discoveries that they had about the other members of the team. so that we didn't have the breakdowns that you normally have on teams where people start shooting daggers at each other.
Isn't it interesting how when we recognize each other as people, whether you're in a professional setting or elsewhere, things can start to flow more? And I know that you take it beyond that, you know, looking at the feminine and masculine, things like that. But just even that, you know, that just that alone, just recognizing people as being people, it can make such a huge difference. So something I actually heard you talk about in another interview I heard that you did, I would love to ask you about. You talked about encouraging listening conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Will you share with us? Because it sounds like that seems so simple, and yet the more I think about it, I'm like, wow, that sounds really complex. How do you do that? So will you share with us what that is and what that looks like?
Yeah, I've been an advocate for 20 some years of listening conversations. We don't listen to each other. We tend to already be talking in our heads about what's going on or what's going to happen. And we already have the answers, or we want to push our agenda in. And so we think about the agenda, our head isn't in the space. And we talk as if we have two mouths and one ear. And we actually have two ears and one mouth. And so I've been advocating listening conversations, but at a deeper level of listening. So recently I've gotten into heart-based listening, where you actually hear the heart and soul of the individual. We, as a team, the City of Edmonton created a discipline around change management of needs-based conversations, where we understood the need underlying the complaint, underlying the issue, underlying what was going on in the person's life. And now I'm actually taking it another level further. And I've just enrolled in a course called Conversational Intelligence.
Nice.
And
very cool.
It's neuroscience. So it's bringing the science of the brain, chemistry, into the listening conversation. But it's still about listening conversations, because the only way we as human beings progress, achieve results, or innovate beyond who we are is through conversations with other people.
How do you get people to start to listen with their heart?
Well, it's a challenge. It takes some coaching.
I imagine it, yeah.
Well, first we have to get them to stop listening in the other ways.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of people are addicted to being right. And so they're listening for affirmation of being right, instead of actually hearing the conversation. And by the way, this whole masculine feminine thing, that's only one difference that we have as human beings that I bring to the table. There's lots of other differences. There's cultural differences. There's differences between introverts and extroverts. There's differences in languages. There's all kinds of different barriers. And yet, to me, I see them as opportunities to hear something completely new. And when you listen from the heart, the language you speak doesn't matter, because you hear the dialogue underneath, right? And then there's techniques, there's actual tools and skills you can learn to become active listener, to become one of those who has listening conversations.
Nice. Oh, okay. So I'm really glad I asked that. Thank you, Sharon, for elaborating on that. Because there's a lot of, yeah. So I want to definitely learn a little bit more about you before we get back into talking about the stuff you do. And I'm just looking at the time. So okay. And I'm just hearing a little bit of feedback, but it's all good. So Sharon, will you tell us, you mentioned at the very start of the show how you referenced coming from a place of purpose, and and that kind of thing. I'm just going to, let me see if that helps it. So tell me in your words, how do you view having life purpose, or what your specific purpose is in life?
So this came to me. I have a tool that I use in the work environment, and it's all about outcomes or results. It's a very strategic tool based on a book called The Information Paradox. And it was used first in information technology arenas, and then I've translated it into using it as an exploration of purpose and a life map. One of the tools that I offer is to life map somebody. And
nice.
What this does, and I've done it for myself, and what this does is it identifies your purpose and all of the necessary and sufficient outcomes that are required to get from the actions that you're taking to the purpose that you're living. It's basically a roadmap.
And tell me again, did you say that that's in your book?
That's one of the services I offer.
Okay.
It's a coaching service.
Got it.
It can't be in the book. It's a little bit more of a discipline that you have to learn.
Okay.
And a discussion format that comes from it to get to there. It's a certain set of open-ended, very broad questions that actually get you into a space of discomfort. That kind of conversation, yeah. Right? It really requires listening, really deep listening, and okay. It is a listening conversation technique.
And what would you say, if you're open to sharing, what's your personal connection to your own life purpose? How do you, I don't know, do you have anything to elaborate on your own personal life purpose?
So this was really interesting because in 2006, I did this on myself for the very first time. And I looked at it, and you're supposed to look at it from the perspective of like 5 years or 10 years out, and looking backwards, what did I achieve? What of my life purpose did I get to? Well, by the end of 2006, I had achieved everything that was on my current life map.
That's exciting.
It wasn't, yeah, I know, but it wasn't far enough out. It wasn't, the vision was too small. I was keeping it too small, right? And so then I went broader. And one of the first things that I noticed is that the things that I was drawn to, the things that I wanted to bring into my life, like husband, having my cats, having friendships, really solid, strong, beautiful, wonderful friendships, and my book, my new business, my approaches, my coaching, wanting to make a difference on our planet by having more connections, right? All of that actually contribute to my passion, to my purpose. I didn't see the connections until I did the life map. I could see that I was doing stuff over here and doing stuff over there and doing this stuff, like, weight loss. I lost 85 pounds. And so, but that was part of what I was needing to do to get the energy that I needed to follow all these other paths and serve my purpose. And the weight was there previously because I was suppressing my energy. I was trying to pull myself down, and the weight allowed me to sleep instead of get up and go hike a mountain. Right? And whereas now I'm, working with my husband, he hikes mountains. I do what I call wilderness walks with him. But I'm getting more and more excited, and I have a lot more energy to take on more things. And now I can actually contribute to something that is going to change the planet.
Nice. Okay. So it sounds like your view of having a life purpose stems a lot from the different lessons that we learn and how you carry that forward. Would that accurately reflect
that? Yeah, that, and then the discovery that you make when you build your life map or your life purpose diagram. The discovery is that you're already on the path. You're already connected. You just can't see the connections. And once you see the connections, once you bring those connections in together, the power of doing this and doing this at the same time suddenly explodes, right? So because you now doing this, you can do it with this purpose. Doing this, you can do it with the same purpose. So now your energy is escalating on top of the energy that you've already got, right? So you got energy. Okay. Instead of feeling yourself divided in doing things that are isolated from each other, you start to see where the synergies are happening, and being able to leverage each one together makes it way more powerful.
Wow. Okay, so I'd like to shift gears just a little bit. So Sharon, this show is called Every Day is a New Day, and I would love to get your thoughts on what does that mean to you?
Every day is a new day. And it's really interesting how many of the practices, the business practices that kill innovation, show up on a daily basis. Even now, even after all these years of me working on this, they still show up because I'm human, right? But I can recognize it, I can see it, and now I have a choice to make that actually energizes me and the people around me, or de-energizes me and the people around me. And that's every day. Every day something new comes up.
I think for some people it becomes really hard to recognize that there are choices.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on how can people start to recognize that there are other choices than just doing things the same way? Any thoughts on that?
Well, that's actually the focus of my book.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Let's get into the book.
It really is. So I have 7 chapters and 7 practices that kill innovation. So these are the ones that take you down into your cage, that suppress your energy, that basically kill your spirit off to death, from chapter 1 to chapter 7. And then there's that small shift in each chapter, and it's really a very small shift to take yourself into a place and space of innovation and innovative energy by making that small shift choice. So, for instance, in chapter 1, the practice that kills innovation is living in scarcity, using scarcity mode, right? Everything is scarce. There's not enough time. There's not enough money. There's not enough friends. There's not enough budget in my wallet. There's not enough, right? And this kills choice, because when you're in scarcity mode, you can't make choices. You can't make a decision. You can't figure out what it is that you need. And I kept getting myself into scarcity deliberately by skipping meals, not drinking enough water, skipping sleep. Those are the basic needs. Once you understand the basic needs and you can meet those basic needs, suddenly you now have a choice.
Nice. So it sounds like you help people identify what mode they're in and then start to shift from that space. Okay.
Exactly, right? And then just show them the opposite to that. So if we're not in scarcity, what are we in? We're in a state of abundance. And, because I'm Canadian, I call it a bun dance.
I like it.
And it's the energy of the bun dance, right? So I want to start seeing people having bun dances.
Uh-oh.
You know?
I'm getting images of like twerking, but it's a little different.
Yeah, right? Exactly, right? So
Fun
go to
dances,
work,
fun
have
dances.
abundance, right? So get yourself to abundance. And for me, you saw me when I did that energy of the
Uh-huh.
masculine and feminine imbalance.
Right.
Okay, that centers me, right?
Mm.
And that allows me to get out of scarcity thinking and out of scarcity mode. And it allows me to then have clarity of choice to be in abundance and energetic spirit, or to depress that
Nice.
and be in
Okay.
scarcity, right? So we all have choices. We don't think we have choices, but we always do. And that's where I'm trying to help lead people along the path to finding those choices.
Well, thank you for elaborating on that. Yeah, that is great to hear, especially for organizations. They might be thinking, how is this person going to help us? And what's awesome is you have a full-on process that they can walk through and help them identify things, the places where they could use shifting and help them to see choices. That's fantastic. So you talked a moment ago about being in you said scarcity, and then how what I heard was how self-care was maybe sometimes contributing to coming from a place of scarcity. And so I would love to ask you, because I've identified how important self-care and filling my own cup up is for me and the things that I want to do. And I think for so many women coming from a space of, whether it be you're coming from the masculine or the feminine, we need to be reminded of, how can we fuel ourselves so that we are coming from a full, operating from all of who we are in the best possible way. So with that said, would you share with us, what are some of your preferred ways to, for self-care or filling your own cup up? How do you self-care?
Well, the first part of that journey actually had to come from me starting to listen to my body.
Mm.
For years, I would just ignore it. I would carry on, um, and and I would then fall into scarcity all the time because I would deny my body the need that it had for food, for water, for sleep. I take naps in the middle of the day now.
Mm.
And my husband, who happens to be a diabetic, is helping me have 3 meals a day.
Nice.
Because
Okay.
right? He has to have his meals at predictable times every day, and there's got to be a minimum of 3 of them. Like I usually have 6 or 7, but he has to have a minimum of 3 of them.
And what difference have you started to notice in your body as you've shifted to that kind of a eating habit?
I have more energy, so sustained energy. So when I don't eat, I get very hangry. I have that really grumpy, the little whiny voice in my head starts to get really, really, really loud. And once I notice that my whiny voice is going and complaining about something or somebody, because there is no complaint about the other people around me. It's only me being hungry that's
Right.
getting that whiny voice going, that's complaining about, well, what if they just didn't do it this way, And as soon as I start to hear that, I realize, no, I'm in scarcity mode. Grab a drink of water, have a nap, whatever, right? And listen, I'm listening more to my body and what it's telling me that I need to do. And when I do that, I get up and I've just got that burst of energy from that I would never have had before.
What a difference it makes when we can start to be more consistent with giving to ourselves or listening to our own needs, and then see other shifts happen. I mean, I noticed for myself, it's taken me a few times, to okay, let's try this out. And then I fall out of, I fall out of doing it. And then I realize, wait, things are off again. So then I get back into it and then I fall out of it again. And it's finally after a few times of that going back and forth, I start to really embrace like, okay, there's legitimate value in being consistent with my own self-care and, beyond just, okay, I don't get hangry, but just in how, I treat other people, how how effective I can be in the work that I do. I mean, I think it's interesting how it's not this obvious thing of how self-care has positive benefits beyond just the immediate thing. Oh, I'm no longer hungry anymore. No, you actually can be like so much more effective or impactful when you take care of yourself first.
Well, and it's a gift that you give others around you. Those people in your life, the things that they want from you is patience and generosity and caring and compassion. Well, I can't be caring and compassionate if I'm tired or I don't have enough to eat or I'm hangry or whatever, right? I just don't have that in me. So when you have that in you, you actually are patient. You are compassionate. You are caring. And you can exude that and you can be that balance between the masculine and feminine. And you can be that source of energy for those people that you love. So it's a gift to all those people in your life for you to take care of yourself first.
I love that. Okay, so we are getting to the the end of the show, and I know, right? So quick. So again, hello to all those who are listening live and on the replay. If you haven't said hello yet, feel free to please go ahead and say hello so we can acknowledge you after the broadcast. I want to do something I haven't done in a while on a show, but I would love to do with you, Sharon, because you are about the power of the feminine. And and this is just, I always say this is something kind of silly, but it's always, I think, also really cool. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull one of Louise Hay's Power Thought cards. So,
awesome.
Okay, good. Thank you. Right. I'm glad you're up for it. Okay. So let's pull a card here because I just love receiving inspiring, empowered messages. And this is, I believe, our one. Oh, I love this. And I pulled the right deck, right? Yes, I did. Okay. So the one that came out, Sharon, get this. Oh, I took it out. Is I am willing to change.
I love that. It's so perfect. And that's the absolute requisite that's required to go down this new path.
Right. Just the openness, right? The starting with the openness to changing.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Okay. So Sharon, will you share with the audience, how can they find out more about you? Where can they go to find out more about you?
So the best place to go is my website, which is you'renotaNail.com. It's YOURE, because it's you are not a nail, with the apostrophe not there. It's YOURENOTANAIL.com. All of the ways to access me and to talk to me are there. I also have a Facebook page, You're Not a Nail, and a Twitter account, Going for Value. Going for Value is the next step in the iteration, is once you take care of yourself and you're ready to be that energy that people require, which I'm calling be the sun, which is the spark that unleashes nobility. Really, really important concept. Using the Going for Value tools. The Going for Value tool set is the foundation layer, and it's going to start connecting more pieces and people and tools and advice together. So that's nice. To come.
Okay.
But for now, go see me on you'renotaNail.com.
Well, we talked a lot about your background and how you serve organizations, but for anybody who maybe is still not quite making the connection, will you explain why you named your book You're Not a Nail?
You're Not a Nail? So yeah, what was happening is that even as a leader, I was hitting the nails on the head and I was smashing light bulbs. And when I started talking about this with my my support partner who was helping me write the book, she said, well, that's it. That's the title of the book. It's You're Not a Nail. Because I kept saying, you know, it's like you're hammering nails on the head and you're smashing light bulbs. And I don't just work for corporations either. I also work with individuals, especially entrepreneurial thinkers, either in the business world who have that itch thinking that there's more to this than you know, and I want to take things further, or an individual who's starting up their own new company and needs some help to not make it mainstream and to do something completely different. There's a lot of people who are interested in finding new ways to do work, to do life. And I love to connect with any of that energy and help out wherever I can.
And is there a date when we can expect to see your book come out?
Well, the book is currently published, and it's really interesting because I work really well in PowerPoint and presentations, and the entire seminar series that I've published on my site is my book. It's just published in a non-traditional book format.
Oh, okay.
Because so I'm a rebel, right?
I love it. So, okay, so people can get your book by going to your website. Is that?
Yeah, they can go online and they can purchase it there. They can also pre-purchase the copies of the PDF file that's coming out over the next couple months, and then the print format when it comes out. And I can't give a precise date, but it's still a work in progress. But all the information that you need, all the information that will help you achieve what you want to achieve and get past a lot of those barriers, it's already there. It's existing on my website, and you can purchase the online seminar series.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Sharon. It was wonderful speaking with you again.
Thank you, Kim. What a thrill. As always, whenever we connect, we have the best conversations. I love it.
I agree. And Sharon, please don't ever stop yourself from giggling, because I love your giggle.
I can't. It's just not even possible. So yeah, it'll always be.
Good. Awesome. Well, and thank you to all those who have been with us live and on the replay. It was wonderful having you here with us. If you'd like to find out more about future Every Day is a New Day shows, you can go to my website at KimO'NeillCoaching.com and click on the radio tab, or you can also find me on Facebook at Kim O'Neill Coaching, because I do both. I do coaching and have this show, and I would love to connect with you there. I am a personal empowerment and interview confidence coach, and I also offer free coaching consultations. So if that interests you as well, then do connect with me, and I would love to see how I can support you in moving forward and being more of who you are. As you heard through Sharon's interview today, it can be a journey, but it can be really, really rewarding when you get to that place where you can embrace all of who you are and really show that to the world. And I love that we were able to speak with Sharon today and hear her story. So thank you for being here today. I hope you remember that every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow, and vice versa. I think I said that a little backwards this time, but you understand what I'm saying. So have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thank you.
It's taking a moment. I don't know if it's actually. Do, do, do.